So Harry and Meghan have already moved on from Caroline Graham and the Daily Mail's little train wreck over in the Philippines, where they tried to orchestrate Operation Amputation involving Meghan's father, 81-year-old Thomas Markle Sr., So they tried to make Meghan look bad by splashing the 81-year-old's "I see you" quote unquote photographs all over the global media, talking about he wants to see Meghan one more time before he dies. And everybody has condemned these actions as unethical on the part of Caroline Graham and the Daily Mail. There was a clear breach of basic ethical standards for journalists, the way that this woman and the Daily Mail exploited the target, entered a hospital room of an 81-year-old man and splashed his private business all over the global press, all in an attempt to embarrass his daughter, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Anyway, Meghan dealt with the business with the most incredible composure I have ever seen, like a 007 agent, as I have said. And she got a letter delivered personally to her father, and she just chef kissed, lambasted the Daily Mail and Caroline Kennedy for their unethical behavior. And now that's all anybody's talking about is the unethical behavior of Caroline Kennedy and Caroline um, Graham and the Daily Mail. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan have already moved on. They are not sitting there in Montecito, going over this a million times a day in their heads. Oh no. They have things to do and a world to change. So they issued a statement yesterday on Archwell praising the Australian government for pulling the brakes on big tech and how big tech is exploiting young people on platforms like Twitter, Snapchat, YouTube, Instagram for money and for click and for using algorithmic manipulation. And so the Australian government has basically come out and said that it will fine any of these big companies to the tune of 49 million US dollars or more if they fail to implement changes in their companies or on their platforms that children under the age of 16 cannot any longer use these platforms in Australia. And big tech has to take measures to see to it that 16-year-olds cannot access these sites anymore, because the government feels that children are being harmed by these platforms, whether it's cyberbullying, mental health violations, etc. They are violating the rights of these children and putting the children in harm's way. And the government has basically come down and, put the brakes on these people, on big tech. And so Harry and Meghan issued a statement in support of this move by the Aussie government. By the way, I had heard that there might be some trip to Australia for Harry and Meghan. I don't know if you guys heard that. I didn't really, to be honest, I didn't take that seriously because it just seems so unlikely, because Australia is so up there with the UK government. They're part of the Commonwealth, And I mean, so is Canada, and Harry and Meghan are regularly in Canada. But I mean, a trip by Harry and Meghan to Australia that would look anything like a royal visit to me is just so highly unlikely. I mean, that the Aussie government would, you know, would have would support such a trip. But now I'm really kind of like wondering about that because, here it is that they issued the statement. I mean, that doesn't mean that there is a trip, but the fact that they came out and supported the Aussie government so quickly over and above anybody else on their level of profile suggests that, first of all, they're very on it, with um, with social media and mental health and young people and so on. But also, it kind of hints at some kind of um, what's the word I would use? Like there's something brewing, that there might be some truth to this Aussie this Aussie tour, if you will, sort of what they did in Nigeria and in in South America. And so there is that. But we'll have to wait and see if anything comes of it. But the point, though, of this video is that Harry and Meghan have already moved on, while Daily Mail and Caroline Graham are still on the defensive. They're still trying to clean up their train wreck. People are looking at them askance and just, completely disgusted. Even UK media, GB News, there was an article in the Sun of all places, where somebody was saying, Meghan has to be given the space to decide how she deals with her own father. I mean, you don't do something like this. It's just so many other UK media sources and outlets have come down on the Daily Mail and Caroline Graham for this, to the point that they're issuing statements denying that they, did anything wrong, which is usually, a sign, if not usually, certainly often a sign that maybe they did do something wrong, right? Because they don't usually come out, having to deny anything. When you're the Daily Mail, I mean, you basically almost have carte blanche to be completely unethical. But here they find themselves on the defensive because so many of their own contemporaries in media in the UK have condemned what Caroline Graham did. So they're still over there dealing with their own, self-inflicted car wreck, while Harry and Meghan have moved on and they are issuing statements on R12 about the Australian government's new policy on social media for children under 16 in Australia. So they are really just like taking a leadership role. They're just coming out and charting their position on the world stage in global matters, So it's very, very impressive. And they just doing that. They don't skip a beat. They're not sitting there worried about Caroline Kennedy and Caroline, what's her name? Caroline Graham, I'm sorry, and Daily Mail and their unethical nonsense, and I just love it, right?